Hello. I'm a little embarrassed to be making this video. You see, a couple of years ago I started this channel called the Draw It All Dojo, and then I abandoned it, which I'll get into in a few minutes if you have the time to listen. And I abandoned it like 2 years ago, and I really do keep a lot of different balls in the air. I juggle a lot of different things in my life, and I really haven't been back to check it out very much since I abandoned it. And then I started a channel called The Underground Artist, and I abandoned that channel also for a completely different reason. And now I have a third YouTube channel, and I just went back and checked out my old first channel, the Draw It All Dojo, and I was absolutely shocked to find out that some people have actually watched some of these videos. My video on drawing feet has actually been watched something like 1,500 times. Now maybe some of those people turned it off after a minute. I didn't check any analytics on it. But that's a lot of people clicking on it. And I was really stunned to find out that 65 people have actually subscribed to this channel when it was only in the single digits and it was only a few personal friends back when I abandoned it. 65 people have subscribed to this channel. And I feel bad. And that I abandoned it now, and all these people have subscribed to it. To me, and maybe 65 isn't a lot to the big YouTube people, but I'm personally touched by the fact that 65 people liked watching me draw things on that whiteboard. And so I just wanted to cut this video very quickly to say I'm going to link up this channel that you subscribed to a long time ago and you've probably forgotten about, to the channel I'm currently doing, and I hope that you come over and watch some of the videos over there and maybe subscribe over there. But before I get to pitching that idea into your brain, let me just first apologize and say you subscribed to something and then the guy that was putting it out abandoned you. I'm sorry, sincerely, and I really do appreciate the fact that you took the time to subscribe and that you were interested in what I was doing and that you wanted to support it and see more of it. Thank you for that. That's the real message I want to get across in this short video. First, thank you. This is a message to those 65 people who subscribed and to the 1,500 who clicked on the feet thing. You know, thank you. Thank you for taking a look. And especially those of you who subscribed. Thank you for taking the time to subscribe, and I hope that you get this message in your feed and you look at it. If you're interested, I'm just going to give you a couple minutes here on why I abandoned these channels. As far as the Draw It All Dojo goes, I realized after I started doing it, I thought it would be something that would have a lot broad appeal, but I realized after I started doing it, because I am an artist myself, and when you're wrapped up in your own stuff, you tend to think that everybody's interested in that kind of stuff. And of course, most people aren't. And I realized that it was a very limiting format that I was putting myself in. Only a tiny fraction of the public is interested in drawing pictures. Okay, us artists, I assume most of the people who subscribed are artists. You know and I know that we artists who are interested in cartooning and drawing realistically and drawing comic book style stuff, we're a tiny minority of the public. And for every one person for every 10 people, let's say, who's interested in that stuff, only maybe one of them actually seriously pursues doing something about it and learning how to do it, which is a shame. So it's only a tiny minority that's interested in learning to draw. Of that minority, most of them are either going to art school or looking at drawing books or drawing from life, or copying their favorite artist, or just determined to reinvent the wheel themselves because they're artists and we act like that, we think like that. So only a minority is interested in drawing. Only a minority of a minority is even willing to look for advice because they're either already getting it or they don't want it. And of the minority that's willing to look for advice, only a minority of that minority is looking on the internet, because the other people that are looking for advice might just take a class or buy a book, or do something else, or take random advice from their wife or their mom or something. So only a minority is interested in drawing. Only a minority of that minority is willing to take advice. Only a minority of that minority is willing to take advice from the internet. And of the people who are looking at the internet for drawing advice, only a minority of that minority is willing to take internet advice from some Yahoo that they've never heard of on some no-name YouTube channel, when there are people who are famous artists on the internet giving advice, and people who put a lot of time and effort into their how to draw videos and have a lot of editing and a lot of visual pizzazz to it. So I realized that standing and drawing at a whiteboard meant that I would only appeal to a minority of a minority of a minority of a minority of Americans. And that's, excuse me, and that seemed very limiting to me. So that was why I decided to broaden my focus. I did have fun doing the Draw It All Dojo videos, and I do plan to do a little drawing on the whiteboard on my new channel. I don't plan to do it as instructional videos. I'm thinking that every now and then I will slip in a video of me just drawing things, just freehand drawing, stream of consciousness drawing without any advanced sketching or any do-overs. And I think I can come up with some pretty wild stuff that way, and I think those videos might be interesting. I think they make you might want to watch them. You might want to, it's the sort of thing where you might want to go, I wonder where this drawing is going. And you might even learn something from that. You might not. But I think that might be a fun way to incorporate a little drawing into the new channel. The second channel that I started was Underground Artist. And the reason I abandoned Underground Artist is because I realized the first time I looked up the channel on Google, after I made a handful of videos for it, that Underground Artist is a terrible name for a YouTube channel. You need to have a name that is unique. All the good YouTube channels have a name that's unique. And when you Google search the phrase Underground Artist or The Underground Artist, you get reams and reams of crap. Everything from hip-hop videos to performance art to tattoo videos, you name it, everything. And his brother wants to be called art, and everything in his brother thinks that what they do is part of some kind of underground. And a lot of music videos. So I realized that was I had created a name that was so common, such a commonplace expression, that anyone trying to Google search it would find it nearly impossible to find. I actually found it impossible to find by looking for the name. The only way I could find it was by looking for the specific title of the first video I put on there. So if I can't find it on a Google search, I don't think anyone else is going to stumble across it. So that was a terrible name. But then also, I was going to do some geek comic book stuff on the Underground Artist, but I also want to do a lot of life stories, because I'm an old guy. I'm 57 years old, and I've lived a very, shall we say, colorful and extreme life. I was a punk rocker in the 70s. I was child labor as a child. I was a drug dealer when I was a teenager. I was briefly in the military. I lived I've worked many different types of jobs. I've worked in comic books. I've done all sorts of independent comic books, underground comic books. I worked for Fantagraphics. I've led a very unusual life. So part of what I want to do on Underground Artist, my idea was to broaden my appeal a little bit by telling some of these unique and funny stories from my life. But then once I started telling them, I very quickly realized that a lot of these stories involve other people that I can't really fairly identify, because they involve things that they might be ashamed of or embarrassed of. Or even though the statute of limitations may have passed, I don't want to incriminate someone in a crime. And even if you change someone's name, anyone who knows me is going to be able to put together who the people are that I'm talking about. I won't be able to disguise them well enough to really claim that I'm still protecting this person's secrets. When you live a colorful life, I know a lot of people, and I know a lot of people's secrets. And I am a deep well of secrets. It's a phrase that I use to describe my background. I am a deep well of other people's secrets, and I believe I'm a strictly kayfabe individual, which means that I strictly believe that what is our business, and not spilling our business out to people who have no business hearing it. So in order to maintain kayfabe, I realized that I couldn't really tell a lot of the best stories. For example, I knew a guy that smuggled weed from Jamaica on several occasions. You know, international smuggling is kind of an interesting story, and he was an interesting guy. I can't tell that story. I know, you know, there's a lot of stories like that that I can't tell. So I quickly realized that the sort of stories that I started to tell on there were also very limiting because I couldn't tell the best ones. And the geek stuff I put on there, like I talked about Wonder Woman in a half-hour video on that channel, and I did a shorter version of my rap on Wonder Woman on my new channel because I felt it was a good geek subject since the movie had come out. So I abandoned that channel because the name was horrible and because I felt I couldn't really tell all the best stories. So my third channel here, but those videos are still up and I'm not taking them down. You can go and listen to some of them. Also, some of those videos are real crap because I was sitting on my porch and I had the windows open because it was hot, and the traffic noises, there's too much ambient noise. It's a little distracting, it's a little hard to hear. And if you're going to have like a 20-minute or 30-minute video, you want people to be able to hear it, because otherwise if there's too much ambient noise, they're just going to turn it off because they won't be able to take it for that amount of time. So on my new channel, I talk mostly about comics. I also talk about movies. I leave myself open, though, to talk about anything that I want to talk about. There's even a video on there of me reading one of the underground sex stories, reading aloud, that I sold to Fantagraphics because I think it's a funny story, and I don't show any pictures or show you any depictions of sex, but I do. There's some dirty language in it. There's a little bit of sauciness in it, and it's amusing. I think it's amusing. So there's a little bit of everything on the new channel. There's a lot of geek talk. There's going to be a lot of random talk. I mean, like I cut a video on the Confederate statues, you know, thing because it was a current event. I will occasionally cut videos on current events, and I'm probably going to cut a video on an economic subject right after I cut this one. But I would implore you all, if you did subscribe to the Draw It All Dojo, I think there's some really interesting comic-related stuff on there, like how I believe that Iron Man is really the father of Silver Surfer. There's a video on there, as I said, about Wonder Woman. It was my contention that Wonder Woman was never a great character. Okay, you have to watch the video if you want to know why. There's my, you know, review of Valerian is on there, and I cut several videos on Valerian. I cut a video to show some of the original art and some of the graphic novels. There's stuff there where I show art and show collectibles and actually show you what I'm talking about. There's a playlist on there where I'm putting together film clips from all the worst kaiju movies ever made and making my little comments on them. These are just short, like 10-minute clips. So there's a lot of, I think, amusing, informative, and entertaining stuff on there, and I think you're going to like it. If you like the Draw It All Dojo, I think you're going to like it, so I implore you to come and check it out. Now, the name is Kek is Stan Lee. Kek is Stan Lee. It's spelled like that. It's pronounced Kek is Stan Lee, like Stan Lee, the famous editor of Marvel Comics. It's basically, and everyone who's ever been on the internet for any amount of time, who knows anything about internet memes, would recognize that that's a play off Kekistan, which is a real country filled with actual oppressed people, and there's a lot of t-shirts and stuff made to support the cause of helping the people of Kekistan. And so I took Kekistani and just changed a letter and changed it to Kek is Stan Lee, with Lee spelled L-I. So if you just think Kek is Stan Lee, you will find it. Now, this raises a question. Some people have tried to say that the whole Kekistani thing is some sort of political thing, that it's only people of this political group or that political group that appreciate this meme, that it's all like right-wingers or I don't know, Nazis or whatever your political group you don't like, or that it's all, or they say that it's all from 4chan, that everybody that ever talks about Kekistan is on 4chan. Well, I'm not on 4chan. I'm not a Nazi. I'm married to a black woman for 28 years now, and we're still married. We have two adorable teenage kids, to the extent that teenagers can be adorable. They're great kids, but I'm a race mixer. I'm not a Nazi. Politically, I'm a libertarian, you know. I vote for the man, not for the party. So I'm not a right-winger. I believe drugs should be legal. I believe that I'm not in favor of abortion, but I don't favor outlawing it either. Okay, if I was God for a day, I would say that abortion should be totally legal for like the first 5 months, and then totally illegal after. Nobody ever says that. But I figure you should have to draw a line somewhere, and no one's going to be happy with where you draw it, so just draw it somewhere and be done with it. But, okay, so I'm a libertarian. I have very mixed political opinions. I'm not a religious nut. I'm not a right-winger. I'm not a racist. So if you think Kekistan is all only associated with people that you politically disagree with, I think you're just failing to notice that there's a whole world of internet meme humor that is really not political, even though sometimes it gets portrayed as political. So don't be sensitive to the fact that I'm, mentioning something that is an internet meme, Kekistan, because, I mean, really, when you think about it, the poor Kekistanis, they deserve to have their cause be put out there so that people can know about them. They're horribly oppressed by the Nubian Rotarians who are in their neighborhood. I mean, if you've never been rotated by a Nubian, let me tell you, it's not an entirely pleasant experience. It sounds extremely pleasant, but the Nubian rotation is not what it's cracked up to be at all times. So, I mean, the Nubian Rotarians are a terrible enemy of the Kekistanis, and the entire south border of the country is infested with dickweed, and there's very many dandelions and Ponzi tigers just prowling through the dickweed down there, and they're in a bad position. The parts of Kekistan that aren't habitually flooded are where they grow the rice, and so they're perpetually starving, and the parts that are habitually flooded have no disaster relief coming because it's always flooded there. So we need to feel sorry for the Kekistans. We don't need to do anything about it, but we should keep their cause out there. And Kekistan Lee is in no way meant to insult the brave Kekistans, whose cause I wholeheartedly support. But in conclusion, if you subscribe to Draw It All Dojo and you're watching this, thank you very sincerely and humbly. I sincerely and humbly thank you. And I'm sorry. I mean, I'm seriously, sincerely sorry that it didn't work out and that I abandoned you. And I apologize. I take it back. And if you come over to my new YouTube channel and watch over there, I'm not going to say you should subscribe. I'm not going to say that after abandoning you. But if you want to subscribe, I promise I will stick with this channel. I will add things. I will listen to comments. I will tweak it endlessly until it's an entertaining channel. And I'm in it for the long term this time. So come on over, and thanks once again, and thanks for watching for this video. Okay? And if you've never watched another one of my videos, God bless you and have a good life. Thanks.